Okay, so our first example says for the equation of each parabola, find the coordinates of the vertex and focus, the equations of the directrix and axis of symmetry, then graph the equation. So they are giving us our equation to start, and we need to figure out our information here. So I'm going to list our parts of the parabola to the side so we know what we're looking for. We are going to want to find our vertex, and our equation here is a y equals, so that means we're going to use our y equals equation. Our vertex for that equation is h comma k. Our focus for that equation is h comma k plus p. Our axis of symmetry is x equals h, and our directrix is y equals k minus p. Okay, and I wrote all that stuff down just from using that chart we just talked about without even using any numbers yet. So this is what I need to look for. So for my h comma k, when I look at that equation, I know my h is this number right here. H is 2. Because my original equation, I'm going to write that up here, it is y equals ax minus h squared plus k. So my h right here is 2, and my k is 1. So that's my vertex. Next, I want to find my focus, and I can find the first part. My first part is h, 2, but then I need to find p for the next part. My equation for p is 1 over 4 times a, and this a is on the bottom of my fraction, so I have 4 times a on the bottom, and here if I look at my value of a is right here. My a is equal to negative 1 over 16. So when I plug that into my p-value, I have 1 over 4 times negative 1 over 16. Now this is going to be very important that you use the correct parentheses when you type this into your calculator. So if you are typing this into your calculator, we have a fraction, 1 over 4. So we have 1 divided by, but now this whole part is on the bottom. So I need to put all this in parentheses. I have 4 times negative another fraction, 1 over 16, close my parenthesis, and this will give me the correct answer when I type that into my calculator. And the answer we get is negative 4. So I know my p-value now is negative 4. So I have k, which is 1, plus a negative 4. And that means my point here is 2 comma 1 plus negative 4 is negative 3. Okay, my axis of symmetry is x equals h, and my h value is 2. So x equals 2 is my axis of symmetry. So I'm going to write that here. X equals 2. And then my directrix, y equals k minus p. K is 1 minus a negative 4. And that is really 2 negatives in the middle makes a plus, so 1 plus 4 is 5. Y equals 5 is my directrix. Okay, so now I have all that information to graph my parabola. So I'm going to make my graph a little bit bigger right here so we can see it. And the first thing I want to graph is my vertex, which I just found was 2, 1. So I'll go 1, 2, up 1. It's the vertex of my parabola. Then I need my focus, which I found my focus is 2, -3. So over 2, down 1, 2, 3. My axis of symmetry is x equals 2, so that is my line at x equals 2. And the last thing I need to graph is my directrix, which is at y equals 5. Go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's right here. So I have a straight line across at y equals 5. Now I have all this information, I can draw my parabola. So it's going to start at my vertex. My focus is inside my parabola, so that tells me it is going to open down. Okay, so that is how we figure out our graph of our parabola using an equation. So let's look at a second example. Okay, in this example, our equation is x equals. So that means our parabola is either going to open up left or right. Using our x equals equation, we know that our equation looks like this. We have x equals a y minus k squared plus h. Now, in this equation, we don't have a k. We have just a y squared term right here. So since we just have y squared, that means our k equals 0. We know our h, there's a negative right here, and it's supposed to be a positive. So we need to have the opposite sign in order to get that positive. So we have our h is a -6 instead of a positive. See, when we plug in that -6 into h, that's how we get the negative there. And then our value for a is whatever is out front, that y squared, which is 1/8. And then the other value we're going to need is our value for p, and we know our formula is 1 over 4a. Well, our a is 1/8, so we have 1 over 4 times 1/8. Remember, careful plugging that into your calculator. We get 2. Okay, so now we have all that information. We can find our parts of our parabola. We have our vertex, focus, axis of symmetry, and directrix. Okay, our vertex, our point is h, k. In this case, that is h, which is -6, and k, which is 0. So it helps to write all this stuff on the side here, because then when we go to figure out our parts of our parabola, we can just look for our variables over here. So now we know our focus is h plus p, k, which means h plus p, we have -6 plus 2, k, which is 0. Negative 6 plus 2 gives me negative 4 and 0. So that is my focus. My axis of symmetry is y equals k. Well, in this case, we have y equals 0. And then the directrix is x equals h minus p. And in this case, h minus p, we have negative 6 minus 2. And that equals negative 8. So we get x equals negative 8. Okay, now we are ready to graph. So our vertex is at point negative 6, 0. We're going to go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And our y is 0, so we're not going up or down. Then our focus is negative 4, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. 0 again, not going up or down. My axis of symmetry is y equals 0, so that means this right here, where y equals 0, is my axis of symmetry, and my directrix is at x equals negative 8. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. X equals negative 8 right here, so I can extend that out. This is my line, x equals negative 8. So now I have all the parts I need of my parabola. So my parabola starts at my vertex and is going to open up, so the focus is inside. It's going to look something like that. In the next section, we are going to start looking at equations of these conic sections. And the first one we're going to look at is a parabola. So you have this equation sheet where you have all your different equation informations, but we're going to start by just looking at this box right here with the parabola. And the first thing we want to look at is, you can see there are two equations that are given. There is this one at the top, the y equals a with an x in it. So this one has an x, and our other one has x equals y in our equation. Y is in our equation set equal to x. And the difference between these equations is the direction of our parabola. So this first one, y equals, is our axis is straight up and down, vertical axis, and our parabola either opens up or opens down. And for our second equation, that's going to give us a parabola with this axis of symmetry, and it will either open to the left or to the right. Okay, so that's the first important difference. And then you can see below it gives us all of our different parts of that parabola right here. We have our vertex, which is h comma k, so whatever our h is in that equation, comma our k. Our focus is our h comma k plus p, where our equation for p right here is 1 over 4a, and our a is up here. Then our axis of symmetry is x equals whatever h is. Our directrix is y minus kp. And then our opening is up if p is greater than 0 and down if p is less than 0. And so it's very similar with our other equation if our parabola is left or right. So what we're going to do next is look at some examples using this information from our parabola equation. In this example, it gives us the graph and it wants us to come up with the equation. Now the first thing I'm going to do is find my vertex and my focus. My vertex, I know, is right here. And so if I look, I have my y-axis is right here. My x-axis is right here. So that means my vertex here, I go over 1, 2, and up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my vertex is 2, 5. Then I can also find my focus, which is right here. That point I'm going left 1, so my x is a negative 1. Going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Up 5. So that is the point of my focus. So by just looking at this graph, I know that my parabola opens to the left. That means that I'm going to use this equation. I have x equals a, y minus k squared plus h. So I need to find my h, my k, and my a. Just by finding my vertex point, I know those points are h, k. So already I know that my h is 2 and my k is 5. For my focus, I know that that point is h plus p, k. So that matches up. My k equals 5, so I'll write that over to the side. K equals 5, h equals 2. But I need to find my a, and in order to find a, you need p. So if I can find my p here, I know that h plus p equals negative 1. Right here, h plus p equals negative 1. Using that, I also know my h is 2, so I can plug in 2 plus p equals negative 1. Now I can solve my equation for p. If I subtract 2 from both sides, I get p equals negative 3. So I'm going to add that to my list over here. P equals negative 3. Now to find a, I know that my equation for p is 1 over 4a. If I know my p is negative 3, I can plug that in. I know negative 3 equals 1 over 4a. So now I have to solve for a. The easiest way to solve for a is to make both of my terms here, both sides of my equal sign, into a fraction. I can turn negative 3 into a fraction by putting a 1 underneath. Negative 3 over 1 is negative 3. But now I have two fractions on either side of my equal sign. I can cross multiply to solve for a. So I have 4a times negative 3, which gives me a negative 12a. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. So negative 12a equals 1 times 1 is 1. Divide this side by a negative 12, and I get a equals negative 1 over 12. That is my value for a. Oops. So I can add that to my list over here, and then I am ready to plug in my answers to my equation. So here I know x equals a, which is negative 1/12, times y minus k, which is 5, plus h, which is 2. And this is my equation for this parabola. Okay, let's look at the next one. Using the graph below, write the equation for our parabola. So again, I'm going to start with my vertex and my focus. So this is my x-axis right here. This is my y-axis. My vertex is right here. So if I count over 1, 2, 3, 4, my vertex is -4, 0. And my focus, it's really small right here, but you can see it is halfway on that line. So if we look at the focus, my x value is 0 and my y value, it's not on either one of those lines, it's right in the middle, so my y value is 1/2. Okay, so using my vertex, I have h comma k right here. I know my parabola is opening up, so I'm going to write the equation that I'm going to use at the top here. I know that's my equation because it opens up. And then I'm going to list my terms already. I know h equals -4. I know k equals 0. My focus point, this is h, comma k plus p. So I know k plus p equals 1/2. My k is 0, so if I plug in a 0 right here, 0 plus p equals 1/2, I get my p value is 1/2. So now that I have p, I can figure out what my a is equal to. If I have my equation for a, p equals 1/4a, and I'm going to plug in 1/2 for p. 1/2 equals 1/4a. I already have a proportion set up, so I can cross multiply. I have two fractions equal to each other. I can cross multiply. I get 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 4a is 4a. Get a by itself. I'm going to divide by 4 on both sides. And I get 1/2 is equal to a. So now I have all of my parts. I can just plug in my information. So I will write my final equation right down here at the bottom. I know y equals a, which is 1/2, times x minus h, which is -4, plus, and I don't know why I wrote a 5 up here. This should be k. And our k value is 0. So if we simplify this equation a little bit, we get y equals 1/2 k minus a -4, or sorry, x minus a -4 is the same as x plus 4, and plus 0, we don't need to include that. So this is our final answer. Okay, one more example. This says write the equation of a parabola that meets each set of conditions. So this one, it's giving us that the vertex is -4, 5. The parabola opens to the left, and the focus is 5 units from the vertex. Okay, so first of all, it opens to the left. That tells me that I'm going to use this equation right here. X equals a, y minus k squared plus h. Then I know that my vertex is -4, 5, and that point is h comma k. So I know my h equals -4 and my k equals 5. Now to find my focus, I'm going to make a small graph over to the side. If my vertex is at -4, 5, so if I graph that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I go up, sorry, -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This right here is my vertex. My parabola is opening to the left. That means it's going to look like this. My focus has to be inside there. My focus is 5 units from the vertex. So I'm going to go another 5 over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I count over, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My focus goes right here. And this point is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, comma, 5. -9, comma, 5. So that is how I can find my focus. And once I have that focus, I know that this point here, my equations or my letters for that point are HP, H plus P, comma, K. So my H plus P equals -9. My H in this case is -4. So if I add 4 to both sides, I get P equals -5. My last step to find A, I know P equals 1 over 4A. Plug in my -5. And I'm going to put that -5 over 1 so I can cross multiply. I get 1 times 1 is 1, and that is equal to -5 times 4, which is -20. A. Divide by -20. I get A is equal to -1 over 20. Here. Okay, so now I have my last value. I can plug those in. So I get my answer. My equation is x equals -1 over 20 times y minus 5 plus -4. And remember, this right here is the same thing as -4. Plus a negative or -4, both of these equations are the same, and you can write it either way.